And we welcome you back to Miller Gymnasium as we wrap up all the first night action from Miller Gymnasium in Newburgh, Oregon on this night, the first round of the NCAA Tournament. In the first matchup of the night, it was Lewis and Clark taking care of the visiting Concordia, Texas at Austin Tornadoes, winning decisively 83-65. And then in the game you just saw online, it was the number 3 George Fox Bruins defeating California Lutheran 58-35 after a big second half by a number of these players. Our player of the game tonight is Keisha Gordon, finishing off strong, leading the way with 14 points to go with 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and also a strong night at the foul line, once more shooting 7 for 8 total.
And you look at the overall scoring for the Bruins. Obviously, we really do feel Keisha Gordon had a great night for the Bruins, 14 points, 4 assists. But, I mean, Megan Arnoldy right behind her, 11 points, 9 boards. Hannah Munger, even though she really didn't do much offensively in the first half, ends up with 9 points and 8 rebounds, just a little bit shy of another double-double. 9 points for Haley Cusick, 9 points for Jamie Roos. So overall, I mean, the Bruins spread the wealth pretty well. The Regals couldn't say the same. Obviously, Whitley came on strong in the second half. She finishes with 17 points, and Fleischman, the closest Regal, with only 7 points. So, I mean, look at the depth for George Fox. And I think the big question is, what type of team, what's going to happen for these Bruins to falter? 28-0. Obviously, they've had a lot thrown at them this year. The target on their back is huge. It's very unlike the first year they won the national championship, where they were very unknown and teams still viewed them as the underdog. But this year, the Bruins are a national powerhouse, and teams have watched a lot of film on them. And still, the depth for George Fox comes out being too strong for their opponents. And even though Cal Lou battled hard tonight, it just didn't get it done. And the Bruins in a blowout tonight, 58-35.
You could tell really the Cal Lutheran strategy from the beginning of this game. Slow it down as much as possible, and it worked for the first 20 minutes of the contest. We had a real logjam going into halftime. It was just a measly score of 20-15. The Bruins led, but they had still yet to find their offensive rhythm in that game, shooting a measly 6 for 25 from the field in the first half, but they improved that field goal percentage in the second half, shooting a much better 9 for 20 from the field, almost hitting 50% in the second half, and most ultimately outscoring the Regals 38-20 in that second period of play.
This had a very similar feel to the first-round game last year against Occidental, where the Bruins just couldn't get anything from outside, and this year it's the same case. 4 for 22 from three-point range were the Bruins tonight, but still they win by 23 just because the defense is that much better. Not only are they getting to the paint, sure, they still have Hannah Munger, and she's a great threat. The Bruins do have that post presence, but like I said earlier, it was like there was some sort of force field around the paint for the Regals. They could not get a shot off within at least 10 feet of the basket. They would lose control of the ball. The Bruins were all over them. They were forcing the issue inside, and Coach Dow's Regals couldn't get it done near the basket. And for the Bruins, I think that's the big teller this season, and that's where you're going to have a hard time taking down George Fox, is that defense. I mean, if you're nervous and you're missing shots, that's one thing, but hustle beats nerves every time. If you just work hard enough on defense, you can stop the other team, and the Bruins have had enough strategy to where they're undefeated in 28-0 on the season.
And you know, it's a discussion we've had ever since this season tipped off way back in mid-November. We reveled at the amount of options this George Fox team had, both in terms of individuals on this team, the individual talent they brought to the floor, what this team could achieve together both on offense and on defense. One of their primary options to win a ball game was the three-point shot. Helped the cause a lot on Saturday night against Lewis and Clark. It was not there for them for most of the night, only shooting 4 for 22, only good for 18% from behind the arc. However, they dug in and found another option. It was on the defensive end of the floor. The full court press worked marvelously, and the interior defense, though Hannah Munger did not have a loud offensive game, she was a defensive anchor for this team all night long.
It's almost what you want to give the player of the game to, is just the George Fox defense in general rather than just one player. Even though KG did have a solid night, I think she would give more credit, being an unselfish player as she is, she would give more credit to her teammates and say, you know, they put me in a position where I could score. And for her, the all-time leading scorer in Bruins history, 14 points tonight, I mean, that's middle of the road for her. She's had better nights, but for George Fox, it's what they needed from their leading scorer, and the Bruins really got all the help they could from their key role players, and they were able to dominate on defense. And tomorrow night, It'll be the key for the Bruins to lock down on Christina Williams, who's coming in with a full head of steam, 33 points earlier against Concordia, and then Sarah Villanueva with 18 points of her own. So the offense, certainly a bright point for Coach Julie Folks, Lewis and Clark Pioneers, and we'll see if they can bring the same intensity and success tomorrow night.
And you have to wonder, Christina Williams, just not even 1 week ago in this exact building, a very quiet night, only shooting 4 for 11 from the field for a pretty quiet night by her standards, only 12 points in that game. However, against Concordia, Texas was out firing on fire all night long. 10 for 14 from the field for 33 points and 5 rebounds. She was also a perfect 11 for 11 from the free throw line. And you talk about her contemporary for these George Fox Bruins, Keisha Gordon, almost chasing that mark tonight from the free throw line, as well as KG, the Northwest Conference 2012 Player of the Year, had a strong showing with a 7 for 8 performance at the free throw line tonight.
It's just a storybook way for these two teams to finish off their matchup. I mean, you'd think 2 times is enough to get a couple good matchups in your conference season. You play each team twice. Well, then the Bruins face them 3 times in the conference title game. That felt like the culminating game, but still in the back of our minds, we knew that that probably wouldn't be the last time the Bruins would see the Pioneers, and it's very fitting. I think it's great that Division III basketball, which is primarily in the East, gets to look over the West and see a really brimming rivalry between George Fox and Lewis and Clark, 2 programs that are really on the rise. George Fox obviously has been around since their national championship, and even well before that, been around and very adept in the NCAA tournament. But now Lewis and Clark getting their first win under their belt.
That's huge.
Yeah, and so now they got their feet wet. They know what it's like to get a win in the NCAA tournament. And tomorrow night, I'm bummed I won't be around here. I'll be up in Washington for a golf tournament. But, man, I'm going to be watching. I'm really excited to see if the Bruins can pull it off. I mean, winning 4 games against one basketball team in one season, that's quite the feat. And I think Coach Julie Folk's team is going to be ready to go tomorrow.
Now, in past NCAA tournaments held here in the first 2 rounds at Miller Gymnasium, we have had a similar scenario develop twice involving the George Fox Bruins and the second-place Northwest Conference rival in the NCAA tournament. Back in 2007, when Puget Sound was the cream of the crop in this Northwest Conference, the Bruins back in 2007 defeated a Puget Sound team who is right neck and neck with them skill-wise and team-wise the first 3 meetings of the year. In the 4th game of that season, finally, the UPS Loggers got the monkey off their back and broke the Bruins' hearts here in Miller Gymnasium in 2007. Since that day, George Fox has not lost a game in this building to a Northwest Conference opponent. Back in 2010, when the Bruins again hosted the first 2 rounds of this NCAA tournament, it was again the UPS Loggers who they faced off in the second round of the NCAA tournament, and that once again marked the 4th straight meeting. Now, like the 2007 season, George Fox had also knocked down Puget Sound 3 times prior to the second round NCAA tournament meeting, but George Fox had their way with UPS in the 4th meeting of that 2010 season. So will tomorrow's 4th meeting with their Northwest Conference rival nowadays, the Lewis and Clark Pioneers, will it be an upset, a heartbreaking end to the career of 5 brilliant ones of Keisha Gordon and the rest of these George Fox Bruins, or will George Fox have the code already cracked against this Lewis and Clark team? Should be an interesting answer. We will discover as Christina Williams is on fire after one night having elapsed of this NCAA tournament. But 2 impressive showings by the 2 best teams in the Northwest Conference, and appropriately enough, they'll face one another for the 4th straight time this 2012 season.
Definitely, and a couple shout-outs before we go.
That's right.
Tim in Colorado, if you're watching, hello, and we hope you enjoyed tonight. And also, Bill and Donna in LeGrand, the Meek family, the Meek girls, say hello. So, and also back to my parents in Washington, hello. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in.
And also wishing a happy birthday to Bruins senior forward, Carrie Myers. Hope you enjoy your birthday. Shouldn't be too hard to do. After an impressive 58-35 victory, the number 3 Bruins remain undefeated and, more importantly, advance to the second round of the NCAA tournament, where they will take on the Lewis and Clark Pioneers right here at Miller Gymnasium with the tip-off looming around 7 p.m. Martine Rodriguez and I will have the call. Pre-game action forming around 6:45 p.m. So along with cameraman David Reed, My fellow analyst Chris Lumsden, I'm Justin Sweeney, saying good night and so long from Newburgh, Oregon. The first night of NCAA Tournament has concluded, and the Bruins are still alive and well. They'll take on the Pioneers tomorrow night in an epic Northwest tussle on Basketball on KFOX.